On today's episode...
Write that down, Zoe's wise words. I'm a massive collaborator when it comes to that. It's one of my favorite things about making movies. I don't want to be waiting on a bunch of dicks to offer me some shit that is below me just to be grateful for it. Yeah, I know, it's a funny thing that apparently Americans don't do. Beans on toast is not uncommon in New Zealand. Cheese is my friend. Chocolate chip cookies all day, every day with a big glass of cold milk. Fuck, that's my jam.
Yum! Delicious. Skinny. Hungry. Cake. Fast. Scale. Nutrition. Fitness. Strength. Longevity. Calories. Body image. Craving. Lose weight.
What does it all mean?
Hungry. Adjective. Having a strong craving or desire. Stunt girl. Noun. One who takes calculated risks to yield extraordinary or magical outcomes.
You're listening to the Hungry Stunt Girl podcast.
Here's your host, Heidi Germain Schnapoff.
Hello and welcome to episode 11 of the Hungry Stunt Girl podcast. I am Heidi Germain Schnapoff, professional stuntwoman for film and television, and today we are going to continue our interview with Zoë Bell. Last week we covered where little baby Zoë came from and her family life and growing up in New Zealand and how she got into this crazy business. So today you're going to hear the conclusion of this interview where we get into more of her amazing career as a top Hollywood stuntwoman, as well as where her career is headed now. And of course, we talk a bunch about food. So we left off talking about Quintin Tarantino and his influence on her career. And I won't keep you any longer and we'll get right back to our chat. And I hope you guys enjoy part 2 of my interview with the incredible Zoë Bell.
Hungry. Stunt girl.
Turns out he's a smart guy. Who knew?
A little bit. And you've kept that relationship for, I mean, not for nothing, but I'm sure you wouldn't still be working with him on projects if, he was a dick.
Yeah, no, he's an amazing guy. Look, I mean, he's an extreme personality and he is passionate about his vision and what's going to end up on the screen. And he needs to be. That's why magic comes. It's the same thing, right? It's the full commitment. He's fully committed to getting the vision he wants. And sometimes that means he's not considering how that affects other people because he can't. Otherwise it costs the vision, so it's sort of I fully appreciate it. And the more I work with him and the more I start looking through sort of like a movie maker's producer director lens, you start seeing things differently. And it was different for me on Once Upon a Time being in the role of stunt coordinator instead of being like, oh, perfect.
You just roll right in.
And instead of being the like, fuck yeah, I'll do that. I'll make that work. Absolutely. Let's try it. Let's see what happens, blah, 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 blah. Because I'm just throwing myself around and I only have to know my own capabilities. As stunt coordinator, there's like, and I learned, I still want to be able to go, fuck, great idea. Let me see what I can do. But my approach just is completely different. Our relationship is quite different because I'm also in charge of safety and I'm not just the little like, put a camera on, roll, and I'll just blow the shit out the water. It's like, there's a responsibility. There's other people's safety. There's the actor's safety. There's, so there were conversations I was having to have with Quintin that were never part of our conversation prior. And so it was really new territory for the two of us,
So Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, you're now the stunt coordinator and
yes,
and an actor.
Yeah, and Janet. I love how meta that is too. Like Janet is the stunt coordinator's wife.
Right.
Who clearly has some balls, Yep. Kurt Russell's wife. I love that I'm playing Kurt Russell's wife, first of all. That's fucking perfect.
Yes.
But also that I'm the stunt coordinator in 2019. Was it 19 or was that 18?
18.
2018.
Yeah. Came out in 90.
But in 69, or was it 67 that episode? Whatever. But back in 69, I could only be the stunt coordinator's wife. Like, It just seems so kind of... Yeah, he's clever.
That's perfect.
That man he's a clever man, yeah.
So that experience, was that wasn't your first time coordinating, but...
I did a really small film called Bitch Slap. Really, really low budget, which was... And so so choreographing fights and teaching actors, and I mean, all of that stuff's all part of... Everything on set I had done in one way, shape or form as a performer anyway. The biggest thing for me was pre-production. That was like... Because I've never been involved in pre-production. As a producer, yes. As a director on commercials, I have. as an actor a little bit, but not really. But, not in terms of this is my department. I have to set the scheduling, the budgets, figuring out, like, that was all, woo, that was a whole new world for me. And definitely had moments where I was like, Quintin, and he'd say, look at me and be like, does this need me? And I was like, no, you're right, sorry, I'll go ask someone else. This is completely not to do with you. This is, So that was definitely the most...
Involved or...
challenging, in terms of my confidence. It was the kind of the hardest for me to just be like, I got this, because I was like, I know I can do it. I'm good at math, and I can,
I'm good at math.
But I don't have, I can do math. I can add shit up and put columns and, but I didn't have the confidence in that I like confidence that's like, I know I am capable because I've done this before, or I've done things that mean I know I can make this one up, but this is like, So it was, I leaned heavily on my team at that point, and they were fucking awesome. Rob Alonso, and I had Sammy for a lot of it, Sammy Lee, and Zach Duhame, and Rob in particular I would just be like, do I have permission just to ask you really inane questions, and they might be stupid, but I'll only ever ask the same question once. He was like, absolutely. I was like, about this thing. He's like, yep, blah, 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 blah. Oh, cool, because now that makes this sense, and that, it's just that. Yeah, exactly. It's all about, I'm a massive collaborator when it comes to that. It's one of my favorite things about making movies is that kind of, that sense of team and the unspoken languaging and the problem solving, and I love all that shit.
Yeah, super important to have those people to not only fall back on, but to work with to make yourself even better, because if you think you know all the answers, you're never going to find them, No.
But, and I've been damaged by people thinking they know all the answers when they don't, so... That's not how I roll. How
did Raise come about? Now, I know you were one of the producers on Raise, and one of the lead performer, if not one of. And how did someone present you with a script? How did that come about? Yeah,
so Josh Waller, who directed it, he is an old friend of mine, and actually, that's right. I was just like, I think there's a story behind that, and I can't remember it. So. There were a couple of guys, Kenny and, was it Andy? Kenny and Andy, I think? Or was he with his old partner? I think it was Kenny and Andy, had this idea for a movie, and they wanted to do a short, and Josh was going to produce it with them, and they had reached out to me to ask if I would coordinate it and maybe do a cameo in it or something. And I was just at that precipice where I was starting to feel like I was waiting for the industry to give me work. And, I felt like I was like, oh, please, sir, can I have some more? And then someone gave me a job, and I was like, oh, thank you so much. And I was like, do you know what? I've been doing this shit too long and working too hard at it for too long to not be starting to generate it for myself. Like, I don't want to be waiting on a bunch of dicks to offer me some shit that is below me just to be grateful for it. You know what I mean? That kind of, it was starting to feel a bit like I want to take some control. So I went and I met with them, and I really liked them, and I dug kind of, their enthusiasm and the idea and the possibilities. But I basically said, look, I dig you guys and I dig the ideas, but the only way I'm going to do this is if I can come on as a producer and have some creative say, because, and I'm not looking to coordinate, because I was not looking to coordinate at that point. I was looking to act. So I was like, I want some say, and I want to, They were like, well, I thought I had basically said no.
Yeah.
And I walked out of the meeting, and then I got a call about 3 days later, and it was Josh being like, oh, they fucking love the idea. They'd love you to produce it. They'd love blah, blah, blah. And I was like, what? Fuck, Google, producer.
How to produce a movie.
How to produce movies. Enter.
There's that confidence, though. You knew, it sounds like you were confident in what you wanted, and when you walked in the room.
And I knew within the short film and the way they talked, I was like, I know what I have to bring to this, and I know to just coordinate it is going to be either I'm going to end up giving them all the shit that I already know because I want to, because I love that part of the process, and not get a credit for it, or I want the credit and I want the seat at the table, and that's one of my favorite experiences. That job, I think, it was fucking hard, but so proud and so sort of fulfilling and satisfying. And I definitely knew then that I was like, oh, maybe I am a bit of a storyteller, because it was so much of it was character stuff and story stuff that I wanted to get involved in, and the motivation behind each of these women's fights, because I don't just want women being like, fight. and just like in that kind of setting, none of these women are here to prove that they're the best. They're all kidnapped. So like half these women have never fought. They don't want to fight. Like, how do you make it so that someone wants to fight to the death? And that's where the idea for like everyone having a loved one that was at risk. So if you don't fight,
Stakes.
or you lose, or you try and leave, then your loved one gets killed. So then it's like, especially for women, that becomes like yeah, okay, I might be willing to kill for my daughter. It's different to for a medal.
Right.
So yeah, that was and acting wise, that was a big mouthful for me to take off too, because she was in a dark place and she was pretty fucked up, and I tend to be kind of a little bit more, in my real life, I'm kind of a bubbly person, so it was like, all right, I dug deep and I worked with an acting coach, Amanda from the acting center, and was really dedicated to that. And even that, I have one day where, she's like out cold, about to pass out, whatever, and she's like crying, and I could not for the life of me feel it. I was just like, I was so tired. I think we were like week 2.5 or something. I'm probably getting 3 hours of sleep every night and crying all the time and emoting, and like also checking on the other girls and making sure that we were getting the fights the way we wanted them, and blah, blah, blah. So burned out. And it's funny because in real life, if I'm that burned out, I imagine crying probably wouldn't be there.
Right? Yeah.
But when it's like, okay, now we need you to emote, I was just tapped. I was so empty. I remember looking at Josh just being like, I don't have anything in there. Totally empty. He was like, right, well, maybe just go for a run around the block. So I went for a run around the block, and I came in and lay down, just like, just had to physically exhaust myself to do the scene because I just couldn't. And that was sort of one of those where I was like, okay, cool, like, this is why you do acting classes and stuff, is so when you can't pull the game out yourself, you've got techniques that you can lean on, so I went to my acting coach and I was like, let's work on if that happens again.
Give me some tools in my tool bag.
Yeah, exactly.
To get there.
Yeah.
Quintin seems to be a super fan of yours outside of just you being a stunt woman, obviously, and gave you the responsibility of not only character, but being the actual full-on stunt coordinator of a film. Meanwhile, you were, I believe, trying to get into, or working on getting into, a director's program. Am I correct in that?
Yeah. I had just been accepted into AFI's DWW. Like, it all kind of happened right around the same time. Quentin had mentioned something to me about Once Upon a Time, and I had said, we'd started talking about different fight coordinators. He was asking my opinions on some stuff. And then at one point he'd said, if I was to offer you the job, would you be interested? And I was like, fuck yeah, dude, are you kidding me? Quietly terrified, but absolutely, and then kind of hadn't heard from him, which is not unusual when he's busy and he's, writing and making a movie and all that kind of stuff. But I had just kept going through what I was doing anyway, and that was apply for AFI. And then I had just found out, and it had just been announced. I feel like the timing's a little bit hazy now, but I feel like it had just been announced. And then the producers reached out to me about Once Upon a Time, because I had just started the first couple of classes, like early classes. It's like once a month or whatever for the first however long. And I was in class when I got the first call. It was like, cool, we want you to come in and read the script. And I was like, oh shit, okay. I don't see both of these things being able to happen at the same time. They're both very intense.
What was your intention with, just kind of going back to the directing program itself, what was your intention with that in the beginning? Were you just planning on going more the director route? Or
yeah, no, definitely. It was so okay, not to make it too long. So when I was in Australia doing Thor, I had a guy called Matt Noonan who works with Taika a bunch on commercials, producing and stuff, who's an old friend of mine. Well, is a dear friend of Stu Thorpe, who's the best friend that I was telling you about.
Right,
New Zealand. It's so
Stu
small.
from New Zealand.
Stu.
New Zealand Stu.
Yeah. So Matt was over visiting with Taika. We went out for breakfast. I wanted to talk to him about this idea that I had for a feature that I wanted to make in New Zealand. I figured I would produce it because I wanted it to get made. So,
Right.
And I was sort of under the impression that like I could cast me in it, because having me in it might get the money in New Zealand, and I know me quite well, and I felt like I could probably have a conversation with me and get me to say yes to it. But Matt's this great producer, and I wanted to talk to him and see what his thoughts were and all of that kind of stuff. And at the end of the conversation, he looked at me and he was like, would you want to direct this movie? And it hit me like a brick wall that A, it had never occurred to me whether I wanted to direct a movie. And B, when it did occur to me, I did want to direct the movie.
Light bulb.
Like, yeah, I was like, well, I don't know. I mean, I can see the whole thing in my head. I can smell the humor and know how I, like, yeah, I guess.
You could tell the story.
I guess I do want to tell that story, yeah. And then he had called me texted me a month later saying, I want to pitch you to direct a commercial. Would you be interested? And I was like, Tara, yes, send. What am I doing? You know, like that
great.
same, like, I want to be a stunt person. And so I ended up directing 2 commercials through him. Both were one sort of like a bit of a musical number with Rosario in a bug suit and a bunch of puppets that are all different insects and stuff. And another one is a much more sort of narrative action. There's like animation and special effects, and it's like really hammy and silly, but quite an undertaking for me. That was my first one, and it was definitely a lot to take on. But I had a moment on set, I think it was about day 3, I walked off set I was still smoking back then, I had a cigarette, and I was like, I feel really useful in this role. Like, I feel really purposed. Yeah, and I just feel like all the different avenues that I've sort of chased down in my career are all being utilized. Yeah, because it definitely felt to me at times when I was like, what do I really want? Like, I'm kind of, being a stunt performer, I kind of had moved out of that, and I would still do certain jobs with friends and whatever, and love it, but it's also like my body's like, I need to appreciate what my body has done for me, and then just like let it get old gracefully for a minute, you know. Yeah. And the acting and the producing and blah blah blah. And so then when I was in this role of director, I was like, far out. I feel like I'm, not only do I feel useful, but all the different things that I've done feel like they now have had a purpose in hindsight, you know. So I got quite excited about that. And then my friend Courtney Hoffman had done DWW the year before, and she was like, oh my God, you have to apply, blah, blah, blah. And I was really resistant and freaked out and scared and blah, blah, blah. And then like 3 weeks before the deadline, I was like, that's it. And I rang my friend Dante and I was like, can I please borrow your house in the woods? And he was like, absolutely. And I went up there for like 2 weeks, I think, or a week. And I wrote a short film, never written one before, wrote a short film, wrote all, you know, write an essay on why you should be a director, like really challenging, especially for a little Kiwi female, like who tend to be like, no, it's all good, everything's fine, I'm not that special. Like, I'm special because of this. Oh, so uncomfortable. Had my mum and friends of mine like double checking and editing and rereading, and so I just spent a week doing that. And in that week, I got really excited about it. You know, it was like, actually, I'm not just making this shit up. Like, I would potentially be really good at this because of these things that I'm saying. And actually, I do really like that. And fuck, I can see the script, and
Nice.
So then getting into DWW was felt like a really like important achievement. Because I had done it all by myself. I mean, I always ask for help and always, outsource where I can, because I'm all about why not make it richer.
Collaboration too.
Yeah, but it was driven by me. Mm-hmm. I had done it. I hadn't got like a letter from Quintin saying, like, I hadn't got a reference from him, because most people would be like, oh, just get a reference from Quintin, you'll get in. I'm like, yeah, but I don't want to use him this time. I want to do my own, So it was just, I was really, really proud, and it felt important that moment. So then when Quintin was like, do my movie, I was like, oh shit, these are 2 really important things that have popped up that can't both happen.
Now you have to choose.
Yeah, that was a stressful time for me, because I'm also a massive empath. So the thought of upsetting people or letting people down absolutely like paralyzes me. And sometimes it means that I fuck people around more, because I'm so busy trying to not fuck them around that I make the decision late, instead of just being like, do you know what? I can't do that. I'm really sorry. I'm honored, but I can't. And keeping it clean, giving them all the time in the world to find someone else or do whatever. I'm like, well, maybe, and if I do, So I found myself doing that a little bit. Huh?
It's a gift and a curse,
Yes, totally. But I've not once regretted the decision I made. I mean, it's sort of, like there's a film school called Quintin Tarantino that not that many people have access to, and being head of the action department on a movie. It's about a stuntman, and also it just felt like such a romantic sort of full circle for he and I. Like, if I am going to fuck off and go start directing my own shit, what a beautiful way to wrap that all up, and for me to be the stunt coordinator and and be a woman in the timing of all of it just all felt great.
Yeah, which one of these opportunities may present itself again? You
Right.
know?
Yeah, exactly. So
Not one. Definitely.
yes, exactly.
Let's take that one.
Exactly.
Yeah, makes sense.
Exactly.
I'm going to actually go back for a minute to growing up because I want to start getting into where food and nutrition kind of followed you or now currently your current, relationship with it. But you were, you said you grew up and your folks, they kind of kept your sugar low and you ate, and then eventually McDonald's seemed to be part of your diet. But did your folks cook at all? Like, did you grow up, and what kind of things were you cooking when you were, younger that you can remember?
Mum and Dad both cooked.
Okay.
Mum and Dad both cooked. Dad's kind of a sauce guy. So we would often have like fish with some kind of like caper sauce and mashed potatoes and, a salad. Mum was a salad woman. She used to make the yummiest salads. And I've discovered part of the trick is a bit of grated cheese. Oh, and then chopped up tomato. So the wetness of the tomato and the cheese, then it feels like comfort food rather than like just boring salad,
Right. So your dad was a condiment guy? Is that what you're saying? The sauces and...
He was what did you say? Economy?
Condiment? You said sauces.
Condiment guy.
You're self-proclaimed
so he would make
condiment whore.
From what you condiment whore. Yeah, which is probably, that might be where I get it from, yeah. He's sort of he would make sauces, but also, pastas, so bolognese, carbonara, anything that's kind of sauce-based, or anything you can do in a frying pan, which is kind of me. If it just requires flavoring, I'll just add and taste them. But they're both British, so we did a lot of sort of bangers and mash, so we'd have sausages and mashed potato and peas, or we'd have like corned beef and mashed potatoes and peas, and always a salad. Mum would always make a salad.
Question, so mushy peas, is that a thing?
Mushy peas? Not
mushy?
so much. It is a thing. It's a British thing. We didn't really do mushy peas so much as frozen peas. It's sort of like the pea version of refried beans.
Oh, so literally just...
So it's refried peas.
Refried
It's
peas.
green. It's just green.
Oh.
Yeah. Lots of salt and pepper. And we would do, sometimes we'd have a big meat pie on the table, or we'd do a lot of like fish fingers and chicken nuggets as well. But so quite standard, but there was a lot of, Mum was a big fan of organic really, really early on.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask, where you got your meats and things for this stuff, for the things that
a
you
lot
made.
of it, I don't know, to be honest, where they got them from on the island, because I was too little to really care about where it came from, as long as it went here. But, in New Zealand, Mum would do a lot of just going to the farms and getting fresh produce, and we would often go to orchards. You used to be able to do this thing, I think you still can, where you basically pay $5, they give you a bag, and you go around and you just fill your own bag with apples, and you pick strawberries the same way. And so Mum was definitely a fan of the more like clean food, and at one point she sort of started eating less dairy. She ended up being sort of mostly pescatarian. But when we were younger, it was just sort of complete meal. So there was always sort of like a starch, a meat, a veg, salad,
Nice.
And bolognese, though. Family bolognese. My favourite mum's meal was her roast chicken and her roast potatoes. So good. And her gravy.
Nice.
Oh my God, kill me now. And one of my favourite dad's meals was his bolognese. The one that would sit on the stove for 5 hours, and I would end up eating a bowl of it before it was even time for dinner. Just like every time I walked past, I'd eat a spoon,
Oh, yeah. Only way to make it, cooking it all day on the stove.
So good.
My mom, I've said this before on here, my mom made like a sauce that would just sit on the stove all day, start in the morning, and then at night, just can't wait. You smelled it all day. Can't wait to eat it at night.
What flavour? Or would you do that with all of them?
What's that?
Was there one specific sauce that she would do that?
Just
or
her red sauce, her like the Italian, my mom's, Sicilian, and just, whatever her red sauce was, it was sweet, it was savory, it had spices, it just, you smelled everything. The acidity from the tomatoes all day.
No, yeah.
So good. So
God,
good.
it's making me hungry. So
Yeah.
good.
I'm generally hungry by the time I'm finished with these.
Yeah, makes
interviews.
sense. Oh, we also used to do a lot of baked beans on toast. And then we would do, Mum would be like, we need
toast.
Yeah, I know. It's a funny thing that apparently Americans don't do. Beans on toast is not uncommon in New Zealand, but as a breakfast, so toast, and I used to put heaps of butter on, and baked beans, and then like a poached egg and some grated cheese. My family's signature. Oh, so fucking
That
good.
sounds
and my
amazing.
family's this one you should try. My family's signature breakfast, and I still make it now, and it makes me feel like I'm hanging out with my family. Is toast, preferably Vogel's, but you can only get that in New Zealand. You can get it some places here, but it's not the same. Anyway, Vogel's toast, like whole grain toast, butter, poached egg with brewer's yeast.
Oh.
What do you guys call it here? Yeast. I feel like you've got another name for it here that's... lots of vegans use it in their cheese bases.
Like nutritional yeast?
Nutritional yeast, that's what you guys call it, yeah. So heaps of nutritional yeast.
Oh, yeah.
Fresh parsley and salt and pepper on a poached egg on toast. That is like my family's jam. I might make myself that when I go upstairs when we're done.
God, if I had all that I have most. I don't have the bread, but I do have the yeast. I was making some cashew cheese this past week, so.
Actual cashew cheese or cheese sauce?
Like a cashew cheese sauce with like a vegan cheese sauce. Just trying it out.
Well, let me add this interesting layer to my eating habits. I'm not like irresponsibly unhealthy, but I definitely appreciate like a Dodgers dog, and I fucking love a Big Mac occasionally, and I'm mac and cheese is the bomb, and
Makes
comfort
me so
foods.
happy to hear.
Yeah, no, I love all of that shit. But I'm not irresponsible with it. I think my body craves certain things, and I listen. But my boyfriend is currently vegan and oil free.
Oil free?
Yeah.
What? Why?
You should do one of these with him. So Jacob has been vegan sort of on and off most of our relationship. He was vegan when I met him, and then I think he started eating cheeseburgers again to woo me, and it worked. And then he turned vegan, and I was really angry about it.
Oh no.
The oil-free thing has been, I don't know how long it's been now, but he had, and part of the shitty 2018 was in the middle of shooting Once Upon a Time. Jacob had a massive accident.
No.
Emergency brain surgery and a coma, and we were in hospital for a month together, and he had to learn how to walk again and talk again, and it was super intense and scary, and we nearly lost him a couple of times and blah, blah, blah. So he's since got a whole different, or he's a little bit more motivated about wanting to live forever. So the oil-free thing for him came from, I think, from a documentary called Forks Over Knives, and then there's that other one, the name I can never remember, it's like the Champion something or other, but it's like Arnold Schwarzenegger's in it and a whole bunch of other people that are talking about plant-based, oil-free stuff.
Interesting.
It's challenging in ways, but so I've made shitloads of cashew nut cheese sauce in the last COVID months.
Still having fat, but not the oil, like not specifically the oil derived from the fat source. So not
So he gets his fats through nuts and avocado and all of that kind of stuff. There's some belief that oil that's been removed is sort of devoid of all nutrients, and so therefore it's sort of the equivalent of saturated fat. Or what, at that point, if someone says saturated fat, and I'm like, don't have the education to argue, nor do I care enough.
Yeah, it does depend on the person for sure. All that. Kind of stuff.
I think so, and I eat less meat because there's just less of it in the house. But I have my own drawer in the fridge. My drawer has chocolate, eggs, bacon, and cheese in it. Cheese is my friend, my soul buddy.
Cheese is my friend too. Sometimes my friend gives me a really
Treats
bad
you badly,
stomachache, but
sometimes your friend kicks you in the guts.
We always make up somehow, and
cheese just has to come back and look at me, and then I'm like, you're forgiven.
You're
forgiven. I love you.
Well, what about sweets? Are you a sweet person at all?
Yeah, I am. I'm not like chocolate and like ice cream. If it's got chocolate chips in it, or if it's got texture in it, I'm all about it. Like just the plain type of ice cream is yummy, but I don't crave it. But as soon as you've got chocolate chips or bits of cookie or
like brownie,
if you mix it,
I don't know. I'm more of a cookie or brownie kind of person in my
chocolate chip cookies.
Cheesecake person by chance.
I wasn't as a kid. I think just because I was like, ew, cheese in a cake. That sounds gross, But now I do really appreciate it. But I like it in small amounts. Like if you give me a tiny piece, I'll savor it. If you give me a big piece, I get halfway in and I'm a bit like, something happens. I'm the same with muesli, or what do you guys call it? Granola. Like the first couple of mouthfuls of granola with milk, I'm like, delicious. But if you serve me too much, halfway in, it's like my body gets bored and then kind of annoyed. It's like,
it's a lot.
Can't keep going, Chocolate chip cookies all day, every day with a big glass of cold milk. Fuck, that's my jam. Things like candy.
Well, chocolate chip cookies. I'm probably the weirdest person on the face of the planet, but I don't like putting chocolate in with my baked goods. Even brownies, I'm okay with nuts. I'm okay with like
Raisins?
raisins, like an oatmeal raisin cookie or something, or even sometimes white chocolate with nuts. For some reason, chocolate chips in a cookie, unless they're, already dissolved, it just kind of like, I think maybe my brain doesn't know what's happening because it's a candy
Isn't that
and
weird?
it's a cookie.
I
minimal
fucking
chips.
love chocolate in my anything. Chunks of chocolate in my anything makes my day. But in terms of like strange things that don't seem to make much sense, coffee. Sugar in my coffee, I'm like, ugh. Coffee flavored things, ugh, I'm like, yuck, it's sweet and syrupy and gross. But an iced latte with no sugar, no sweeteners, I'm like, oh, I love it. Isn't that weird? But
What about
sweet?
affogato? Because I don't like coffee flavored syrups or things like that. For some reason, though, I can totally put a scoop of gelato and some espresso and.
Ironically, I've had those and I like it. But I like it if the two things are still sort of separate on my spoon.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you have the
mix
bitter,
it all in, then it's just sweet.
then it's a latte. But yeah, I like
Exactly.
having the choice. The same thing with a brownie with ice cream, a hot brownie
Yep.
with ice cream.
You can combine.
Yes, make your perfect bite. The cold ice cream, the warm. Okay, another question. Brownies, yes.
Yes.
Gooey or cakey?
If I can speak to my ideal, my ideal would have bits of gooey and a fundamentally cakey with crispy edges.
Yes. The perfect brownie. I think that's the beauty of doing a single serving brownie is that you can make
Yes.
it nice and crispy on the outside. Or maybe
Crunchy
like a
around
lava.
the edges. Yeah.
I don't
Like
mind
a
a
lava
lava
cake,
cake.
but not quite.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a fan, but if it ideally it would be just super gooey and then have like nice crispy. Oh, finally I think I found my perfect
Cake buddy.
cake buddy. Yeah. Do you oh yeah, I already asked you if you like ketchup because I want to send you some Pittston ketchup. Hi, sorry. Yeah, me again, interrupting. So I just wanted to take a moment to remind you that you can get the most amazing, tasty, simple ingredient ketchup you've ever had at www.pittstonketchup.com. That's PITTSTONKETCHUP, the way you spell ketchup.com. And use discount code HungryStuntGirl at checkout for a sweet deal. Also, I've mentioned this before, but you'll also get an amazing deal on your first order from my personal favorite olive oil and balsamic vinegar, among other incredible treats, at oliveoiljones.com and use discount code HUNGRY. Pretty easy, right? Okay, that's it. Back to the show.
I love ketchup. I put ketchup on my pizza, and
No,
I
you
thought
don't.
for the longest time, yeah, see, what is that response? It's so weird to me. I was shooting Whip It, and we were working late, and we had like second meal coming, so we all had pizzas, and I love when second meal is pizza. It just makes me so excited. It's like the perfect excuse to just shove your face full of heaps of yummy, greasy pizza. And so they had, ranch. And I was like, ranch on my fucking pizza?
Yeah.
For the record too, though, ranch I now love, but when I first got here, because we didn't have it in New Zealand, I was like, what is this shit? It tastes like mayo, but wrong. Like, but like someone got
Like
mayo
sour.
wrong. Yeah, like it started to go off, and they just mixed it up and went, it's ranch. I'm like, no, it's not. It's fucking off. I have since developed a taste for it, by the way, but that was an interesting one when people were like, oh, we love ranch. I was like, ew, Americans are weird. You guys are all strange, and I don't love ranch. But anyway, so we got these pizzas, and I was like, oh, have we got any ketchup? And everyone was like, what? And I found some ketchup, and I put it on my plate. And I can't remember who it was. It might have been Drew. Was like, what are you doing? I was like, what do you mean? It's tomato sauce on my pizza. She was like, it's not tomato sauce, it's ketchup. I was like, yeah, same thing. Whatever. I was like, okay, it's ketchup on my
Drew
pizza.
Barrymore, to be clear, right?
Drew Barrymore, yeah. And
That's
she was like,
hilarious.
why? And I was like, because it's pizza. And I was looking around, and everyone was looking at me like,
What?
I assumed that everybody did it, except for maybe Drew at this point. And she was like, but it's already got tomato sauce on it. And I was like, that is a very valid
good
point,
point.
of which I have never considered before. And then I found out that I literally was the only person who put ketchup on my pizza. And I was like, that's so weird. Bloody Americans, blah, blah. And I remember being on the phone home to a friend. Or maybe I'd gone home. It was one of those times where I came back and people were like, so how's America? I was like, great. I was like, let me tell you one of the things, because these are like things that I love about America. Turning lanes, being able to turn left on a red, barbecue sauce. Like, those are the three things that I'm like, they smash those things out of the park, and New Zealand really needs to like pick their game up and import all three of those things. Then there's things that I don't love so much. For example, they don't like putting ketchup on their pizza, and they looked at me funny when I did it. And my friend looked at me and she was like, Zoe, you're the only person I know who puts ketchup on their pizza. I was like, what? No. My brother does. And she was like, yeah, your family. She's like, no one in New Zealand does it. I was like,
No way.
I had just told the whole cast and crew of Whip It that New Zealand totally does it. Yeah, it just didn't occur to me that it was that weird.
New Zealand population of 4. Yes.
Yeah. Hey, 4 million. Thanks very much. Actually, I think it's close to 5 now.
Oh, yeah. I wanted to tell you about this. I was watching this Gordon Ramsay show called Uncharted on National Geographic. Yeah. Have you heard it?
Yeah.
He went to New Zealand, and this awesome chef, one of the, I can't remember her name right now, but I'll put it in the show notes. I wrote stuff down because I was going to ask you if you had even heard of any of this stuff. I'm not sure what island he went to, but he went out and like hand hunted eel, and he shot a mountain goat, and they like carried it on their backs and cooked it in the ground. So good. I think it's called
Power.
Yeah.
Power.
Yeah. Have you had that?
I have. It's definitely an acquired taste that like I did grow up with it.
Like abalone, like a huge oyster.
It's kind of a texture thing for me. I like the texture, depending on how it's prepared. The texture can get me a little like, it's like egg white for me. If it's not cooked, I get a bit like, you know.
Yeah, egg whites.
But power is it's a pretty classic in New Zealand for sure.
And do you know of the fuchsia berry?
The fuchsia berry?
Yeah. Gordon climbed this tree, and at the very top of the tree was these really dark fuchsia colored berries they used in there.
Huh.
See, I was curious. I didn't know how common they were. Or the
fuchsia berry.
Hoo-hoo grubs.
Hoo-hoo grubs, yeah.
Have you eaten them?
I feel like I did when I was a kid on some camp.
Wow.
But I don't think it was something that I wanted to do again.
Yeah.
But when you're a kid, you either do it because you don't care, or it really freaks you out because you're like, "Ooh, I'm eating a big maggot," you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when Gordon Ramsay spits it out, it doesn't make me want to try it. But,
try it.
I'll try anything twice.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have to ask her about this stuff because I didn't know how common it was.
Fuchsia berry. Hoo-hoo bugs are definitely, grubs, sorry, well aware of those. Power, well aware of that. Kinna.
Or
like power fritters. They make power fritters. That's pretty delish.
Hatopito leaves, or peppery leaves.
Oh yeah, hatopito leaves. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Mm-hmm. I would love to try to cook with those. Did you ever hear of lavage? You know what lavage is? Mm-mm. It looks like a huge leaf of parsley, and it's kind of peppery and kind of strong and kind of parsley-ish. And I think, and I just started getting a CSA basket and from a local farm, and they put lavage in. And I remember when I was a kid, my grandmother used to cook soup. My grandfather their house just always smelled like soup. And it's this specific smell that I've never experienced it, prior. I'm guessing it's just a weed that kind of grew. My grandmother would just throw in the soup, but
interesting.
Reminded me of that. Anyway, I'm going back to ice cream because I tend to do that. Do you have a favorite ice cream flavor, like one that exists? Or?
My go-to, it used to be, when I was a little kid, it used to be orange choc chip, just like orange flavored ice cream with choc chip.
No way. That sounds really good.
Yeah. Then my palate developed a little bit. And now I find when I go to, like, if there's going to be ice cream in our freezer, it's likely to be mint choc chip.
Huh. More refined.
And not so much like the green stuff, like the white stuff that's like tastes like proper mint with chocolate, you know what I mean? But I kind of just like texture. I quite like vanilla ice cream with texture. So with like cookies and chocolate in there, or caramel
like
and
peanut
cookies
butter.
and chocolate. Or
you like a caramel peanut butter, any kind of...
Well, peanut butter, see, it's a very American flavor. Like we have peanut butter on our toast and stuff, but Reese's Pieces and peanut butter flavored cookies and peanut butter flavored stuff it's more in New Zealand now because, like, there's just the crossroads between the two of them are just way more open and things spill through a lot more. But I didn't really grow up. We didn't have snickerdoodles and, all kinds of American stuff like that. But so the American, that's not even peanut butter, is it? Snickerdoodles, aren't they butter ones or something? Cinnamon?
Snickerdoodles like cinnamon. I can't say cinnamon easily. It's not a word I'm good with.
So peanut butter flavor for me, it sometimes feels a little overpoweringly sweet because if I'm going to have peanut butter, if it's sweet, I want it on toast with butter. And I might even put a bit
I like
of salt on it.
unsweetened peanut butter. That's my jam.
Yeah.
Throw peanuts in a food processor.
Jam. Oh, yeah.
Peanut butter and jam. Actually sounds pretty good.
PB&J.
So do you cook now? I mean, it sounds like that's actually kind of a good question for you, is now that you're really kind of taking control of what your body's doing, both physically, and now you're drinking a smoothie that looks like dirt, that probably tastes great.
Bit like dirt.
It tastes like dirt. But it's super healthy.
Like super healthy.
Taking care of yourself inside and outside, sounds like.
Well, more like I'm just less resistant to taking on Jacob's way of doing stuff. I'm like, this could be good for me if I just eat. But the thing is, like, Jacob will eat, if he comes up with a combination of foods that's really healthy and he doesn't mind the taste of it, he'll eat that for breakfast, for lunch, for dinner, every day of the week. I'm like, that shit makes me want to shoot myself in the head. I've been cooking heaps more. I like cooking. It was just never part of my... when I was younger, I was coming home from school and then leaving straight away and then not getting back from training till 7:30, 8. So there was no time to start cooking then. When I was working, I would be working till 7, wouldn't get home till 8, 8:30. So that was too late to cook. So it was just never part of my day to like prep and cook. But I love being in the kitchen with music on and a glass of wine, or a TV show on my laptop while I'm chopping and tutoing. And like, I really enjoy it. And this last couple of months has been, because of COVID and because of Jacob's way of eating, that he'll cook every night, but I'm like, if I eat the same thing every night, it just makes me, I get kind of angry. Like, I don't want to eat this, like food expectations dashed are the worst for me. That's when you'll see me at my grumpiest, is if I've been promised something that I'm really excited about and then it's no longer available, it'll take me, it's the kind of sulk that I'm aware of and I know it's pathetic, but I can't get out of it, so you just need to leave me alone for a minute. It's a bit like that.
Oh, no.
Disappoint my food expectations. But so what's been happening is I got a slow cooker. I got this popcorn thingy that you can do without oil, but you can put a little thing on top that melts butter. So I have melted butter and he's oil free.
Okay.
Heaps of non-stick pans, so because you can't saute with oil.
Right.
I'm sauteing with veggie stock or whatever. Been making all kinds of yummy cheese sauces, and so I've been cooking heaps. Just like get online, look in the fridge, see what the main ingredients is we have, get online, find a vegan, oil-free, blah, blah. And then, I'll probably grate cheese on mine, or I might put some egg, plop an egg on top, or cut up some bacon, or,
Bacon.
Whatever. I know, bacon.
I just made, yesterday morning, I had bacon, mushrooms, garlic scapes that were from the garden.
What's a scape?
It looks like a really long green bean, or like a really long, and it's got the feel of kind of a green bean, but it looks like a really hard scallion, and it tastes like garlic. And when you cook it, it gets a little softer, kind of the texture of a bean, but tastes like garlic. Delicious.
Yum.
Super flavorful. The texture is really nice to have it. It's colorful. It's green. I got that from the garden. So
I will be looking for those. That sounds like an amazing breakfast.
Oh, yeah.
I had
butternut squash noodles in that, and then a poached egg or a fried egg on top.
That was your breakfast?
Brunch, breakfast, yeah.
How long was the prep for that? Or do you have the squash noodles prep?
I had the squash noodles from the supermarket. So that was, the pre-made.
Got you.
I had frozen bacon. I have my little scissors, and I just chop the bacon with the scissors. So I literally take it right from the freezer and snip it into the pan. That's my fat, my whatever. Mushrooms. Lavage. I put some lavage in there.
Lavage.
Lavage. Feels so fancy.
Feels so fancy. I'm a big fan recently of toast with avocado and then bacon and ketchup.
Oh my goodness.
Salt and pepper and oregano.
Yes. Oh, yes. And do you ever hear of a crispy egg, by the way?
I've had them in places.
So it's this dude, Frank Prizanzano, one of my favorite chefs. He owns a bunch of restaurants in New York City, and he's just this amazing Italian, American guy, but does Italian food. It's almost like a deep fried egg. You put your oil, drop the egg in, gets super crispy on the outside, bubbles up, but
And
that
it kind
salt
of bubbles
pepper,
around the edge. Oh, yeah.
yeah, super crispy. And then you take it out of the oil, but there's, salt, pepper, oregano. I put garlic powder on sometimes, but that egg.
One of my favorite versions of that was I went on a trip to Mexico and staying with a friend of mine. And it's like a half-hour drive and then a half-hour walk through the forest to get to the surf spot. And we surfed for like long enough that I was exhausted and fucking starving at the end of it. And then we walked half an hour back and then we stopped on this tiny shack on the side of the road. And we ordered a beer, a shot of tequila, and he ordered me this garlic egg thing. And it was pretty much like what you're talking about, but garlic chopped up really fine and kind of fried in the oil beside it. And then, like, I didn't see them doing it, but I assume they'd basically done the crispy egg thing and then spooned the oil with the garlic in it and dribbled it on top. Oh. So the garlic was all over the egg and the hot oil kind of cooked the top of the egg.
Yes.
Oh my God.
That's exactly.
I was like, I'm going to need another 4 of those things.
Oh, I'm going to start putting the garlic in there. But yeah, right at the end, I'll just drizzle the boiling oil over the top to kind of cover the egg. So
there's garlic in that oil, and then then you're in Mexico.
That's it.
But you also need a beer and a shot of tequila, but
well, that's not hard. Do you like tequila? What's your drink of choice?
My drink of choice is, because I'm sort of a drink at home person at the moment. I like red wine and whiskey, not together, obviously. I love rosé in the daytime.
Rosé all day.
I do. One of my favorite brunch is a mimosa. I love a mimosa. Mimosas are so fun and sort of carefree. There's a thing that's been rolling around here and a bunch of my friends down in this side of the world that they call it ranch water, and it's basically fizzy water. It's like Topo Chico, tequila, and heaps of lime. That's pretty good.
That's my favorite.
Yeah. And when I'm with my mum and dad, when I'm with my dad, I really like a G&T. It often doesn't occur to me. I don't have gin in the house. I don't, But when I'm with my folks and my family, I kind of love a G&T occasionally on the sunshine, yeah.
Any specific gin?
No, I'm not
Not picky.
savvy enough. Or no, I'm not picky enough, yeah.
What I was going to ask you is, you ever hear of an Instant Pot?
Yeah, is it like sort of functions like a crock pot?
Pressure cooker? Yeah, you can basically do the same thing a crock pot can do in about 20 minutes. But
really?
You're talking about, oil-free and all this. Before this episode, I had interviewed Jeffrey Eisner, who is the Instant Pot king, and it inspired me to get one. And that's a game changer. You make your food so much quicker. You can separate, like if you don't want to put oil in something or whatever, you can add it. Or I would suggest you just look into it. I mean,
and it's the same as a slow cooker. It's just a fast cooker.
It's a pressure cooker. So you lock the lid into place and builds up all the pressure inside, keeps all the juices in for whatever, even if it's a vegetarian, vegan meal, whatever. There are tons and tons of recipes. I have his cookbook and there are vegan recipes in there. And I'd assume, and not to assume, but I'm sure there are recipes where you can eliminate oil and
yeah, I'm pretty good at switching things out. But is the effect ultimately the same? Like if you did the same ingredients in an Instapot, or whatever it's called, and the same in the slow cooker, would it come out the same? Just this would take 20 minutes and this would take 5 hours?
It depends on the ratio of liquid to whatever it is. But it's pretty much laid out for you. This dude was like, I want to figure out the mysteries of this Instant Pot because people are scared of it, but it seems so user friendly. So he started this YouTube channel called Pressure Luck. Get it? Pressure Luck. Anyway, he kind of starts at the very, very beginning of, how to just unpackage it and kind of demystifies it. And he figures out, he'll tell you the ratio of liquid to item or whatever to do it properly. But essentially, yes, if you wanted to make something that you would traditionally make in a slow cooker, and you can do sauteing in the actual Instant Pot, so you don't have to saute something or brown something. If you're doing, like, let's say you're doing a meat thing for you can brown it in the Instant Pot
and then add all the other stuff.
Yeah, and then put the lid on. 20 minutes, it's done. So
wow,
just
Although I will say, I kind of like that. I've never had a slow cooker, so I kind of like the bung everything in and then fuck off and go do stuff, and then come back and the house smells all yummy. And there's something traditionally, comforting about it.
Life gets busier, time becomes more precious, and Instant Pot gets cracked out maybe. But and the other thing was, I have to admit, there is an occasion where I put ketchup on pizza, and I will tell you what it is. So I get all of my meats from Butcher Box, grass-fed, like from like local ranches, and they, send it to you frozen, and see only either local or through Butcher Box. I make a cheeseburger pizza.
Oh, fuck. That sounds amazing.
So there's a brand that I like called Against the Grain, and it's a gluten-free pizza, not dairy-free, but gluten-free. No grains used in it, and it's super easily digestible. So I just start off with one of those pizzas. I brown my burger meat with some onions, mushrooms, put all that on, bake the pizza. It comes out of the oven. I put my lettuce, tomato, mustard, mayo, ketchup, pickles. Do you like pickles?
All about pickles.
Oh my god,
all about pickles.
Cheese and pickles, the two things I don't think I could live without.
I've just started making, because one of my favorite things is like a chutney or like a Branston pickle. I don't know if you guys know what that is. It's a very typical. It's the one that Bridget Jones used to eat with a spoon.
Oh yes,
It's very British. But it's like relishes and chutneys and all of that kind of stuff. And England does a lot of that. New Zealand does a lot of it, like on your ploughman's plate. So if there's like on a meat and cheese plate, there'll always be different types of piccalilli or chutney or whatever. But here in the States, I can never find it unless I'm going to some like gourmet boutique cheese something or other. I can't find chutneys anywhere. There's like mango chutney is about the closest thing get, or pickle, like, for hot dog type sweet pickle crushed up stuff, which of course on a Dodgers dog I love, but that's not the point. So I just started making my own. I've just started making tomato relish, big jars of tomato relish and of like Branston pickle chutney type situation. That's like so delicious and so fucking easy. You just chop up all these ingredients, you put them in a big pot. It's basically like vinegar and brown sugar are the basis around all the veggies. And you just cook them over a long period of time, add flavors as you go, depending on what you prefer, and then shove them in a little glass jar, and they just get better and better tasting the longer they're in the glass jar. And that on cracker with like a good, strong, tasty cheddar is just... I'm gonna have my poached egg on toast, the Bell family special, and then I might finish with some crackers on cheese on with the relish.
Sounds amazing. Oh, well, that's...
But I just started making my own. I'm like, holy shit, how did it never occur? I've been craving and wanting it for 20 years and so disappointed. And I was like...
Wait, I can make this.
Google. Yeah.
Right?
So good.
Do you, like, boil the glass jars and do all that kind of stuff? Or do you just kind of put it in a jar and eat it within the week? Or
I did the first round I boiled, and then I just cleaned them.
Yeah.
I haven't even educated myself on the reasoning behind boiling. I just read it in one of the things and I was like, okay, I'll do it. And then I was like, well, won't have to, but.
Just had this, Josh Dean, an actor, who's an amazing cook, in his previous life had a catering company, but he was just on and he was explaining to me why, and I'm not gonna lie, he explained it and I was like, that makes sense. Right over my head. Yep. Yeah. No idea.
I'll Google that one. But because it seems to have worked all right without me when I didn't boil them. So, but I don't know what the advantage is.
Could you have seen yourself, 10 years ago? Would you imagine yourself making chutney for yourself?
No, if I had a thought about it, I would have been making it 10 years ago. But I don't know. I feel like that's sort of one of those. It does make you think about times in your life you're like, I don't like this thing, or I'm not happy with the way this is working out, that sometimes it might be worth stopping and going, could you be doing it differently? Or is there something that you can add or learn that would alleviate the frustration? Because it literally had just not occurred to me. And now I'm like, fuck it, I'll make tomato relish. And, I want to make some onion relish. And my dad can't eat onion, so maybe I'll make one without onion. And now it's like, I'm excited about making a whole bunch of them. Yeah. And I figure I might... You what?
I have this balsamic onion relish.
Oh, yes, exactly. All right, that's my next. I'm going to try that one. But it's also, so my friends own a bar here, and they have like a cheese plate type situation. And I was like, maybe if I get my relishes good enough, they can start having it on their cheese plates and stuff. I was like, I'm going to make all these relish. I'll just name it Relish It.
Oh, beautiful.
Your dad will love that joke.
Yes. I think I'm becoming.
Have your dad come up with some dad jokes for my business?
Yeah.
Relish It.
Oh, that's perfect. Perfect.
Right?
Dad one.
Yeah.
I'd buy it. Good. I mean, sign me up. I'll be your first customer.
Sweet. You send me ketchup. I'll send you relish.
Right. I'm done. I'll send you ketchup and whiskey.
Oh, done.
So last 2 questions.
Okay.
The part A and part B. So kind of one question, but 2 parts. Part A and part 2. First, if you could have, well, you kind of do have all the time in the world to make something right now. But if given the ingredients and all the time in the world to make something, is there one thing that you might have already mentioned it, but is there one thing that you would make hands down? Favorite thing?
I'm bad with favorite questions because once I say one thing, I'm like, wow, it's not something I'd also like. But I just had something pop into my head that it's less about if I had all the ingredients, although it is post roast chicken, like post mum's roast chicken. My mum passed away. That was also one of the things that happened 2018-19, like right after Jacob's. It was a long story. Anyway,
so sorry.
But me too. She used to make the meanest roast chicken, gravy, roast potatoes, and then my dad would make cauliflower cheese. So he'd make a cheese sauce on steamed cauliflower, and so the cauliflower and the gravy together and all just so delicious. But mum used to always make a chicken soup the next day of all the leftovers.
Oh.
And it's my brother and I's favorite soup ever. And it's so hard to make because it is always, because it's the leftovers of a whole meal.
Right.
So it's hard to just be, you can't just write the recipe for the soup because you have to have made the dinner
Have to have
first.
the meal
You know
first.
what I mean? Yeah.
So it's like that's a long process. It's a 2-meal process.
Yeah, it's a 2-day process, and I think it probably needs my brother and my dad to be here too, to remind me how. Because Dad would make the cheese sauce and the cauliflower and the gravy often. Jake and I can work out the chicken and the roast potatoes, and then the next day we'd have to figure out the soup. We've both tried making the soup, and it comes close, but it definitely needs to be like I'll get a rotisserie chicken and try it. It's not quite the same.
Not the same.
It's not the same. She'd chop up all the peas would end up in there, and the chopped up roast potato bits that were left over. And
Roasted potatoes, peas, chicken, and I'm guessing some sort of like herbs and.
Yeah, and there would be. She'd end up chopping and adding some carrots in there, and there was always the leftover cheese sauce and the leftover gravy would always be added to the base.
Cheese sauce. Wow, that's
so tasty.
I don't even know what's in it, but I already want some.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Dad's cheese sauce was literally a roux, so flour. Itchy nose. Does that mean I'm going to be rich? Is that something to do with that? Yes.
Yeah, I believe so.
Or
you're having a stroke. I think that's the other thing. I'm just kidding.
I'm kidding. That's bad. It would be a roux, so he's just butter and flour until the flour's cooked, and then slowly add milk. So he's made a roux, like a white sauce, and then heaps of grated, tasty cheddar cheese, which you guys don't get here either. Not American cheddar, like New Zealand cheddar is more like, if you go to like the cheese section of a supermarket, and it's usually more like the Irish cheese, or there's like Highland cheese that's been aged for however long, and it's really sharp.
Sharp cheddar.
And it's a bit, sharp, crumbly cheddar, just heaps of that shit in there. Oh, so good.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Okay, and then that goes in the soup. Holy moly! All
Yeah.
right, part 2.
Yeah.
Quick. You have limited amount of time to cook something tasty, but is there something like go-to that you're like that you make that's pretty quick, or something that you like that's pretty quick to make?
I mean, I'm a toast fan. I'll make anything on toast. Yeah, toast with avocado and bacon, like I was saying, or toast with cheese and Vegemite, or toast with I'll fry up, make a little mushroom sauce on toast with a little bit of grated cheese. Like I'll make anything out of toast. And anything, if you give me a frying pan or a skillet, I'll make anything that goes on buttery toast and will just be fucking delicious.
Well, your passion
Baked
for
beans
food
on toast
does not disappoint. Beans on toast. I'm going to try that. I just actually made my first attempt at making like baked beans. Kind of sweet.
I want to try that too. Yeah.
Yep. Got the white beans. I think I used cannellini beans and not a lima bean, a wider bean though.
Yeah.
But I did it. I did stovetop, and then I put it in a little casserole and baked it. But it was pretty quick on the stovetop, and holy bully. I would put that on some toast with an egg.
Yeah, that's amazing on toast.
I'm totally trying.
Butter on the toast, beans, poached egg, and some grated cheese with lots of salt and pepper.
Done. Doing it. I'm going to do that right now.
Yeah, I'm going to go do the family poach, I think. That's
Yes.
what I'm going to do. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for giving us, the life story, the career story, and the food story. And
my pleasure.
And really quickly, where can people find you? Are you still on the social media world, or people want to know more about you?
It's pretty much, don't judge me, but it's pretty much the real Zoë Bell across the board. It's Zoë Bell on Facebook. It's the real Zoë Bell on Instagram. It's the real Zoë Bell on Twitter. Well, it started off as a joke because it was when I first started doing Twitter. It was when we were doing Raise, and we were like, we have to self-promote Raise because, you know, we weren't attached to a studio or anyone with any money at all, basically. So they were like, you should get on Twitter so you can promote it. And I was like, all right. So they were like, you know, we need to set you up with an email address to attach to it, and what do you want to call it? And I was like, there was heaps of Zoë Bells out there already. And I was like, let's call it the real Zoë Bell. Like, as it was meant to be an ironic joke, and it was when I had 4 followers. It's hilarious, you know, like the real Zoë Bell with 3 people who give a fuck. You know, that's funny. But then I got a little bit more well known, and there's more. And now I just feel like a wanker saying I'm the real Zoë. Every fucking Zoë Bell out there is a real Zoë Bell. You know what I mean?
Right.
But now it's kind of stuck, and it's
I've been a thing now. People do it.
Yeah, and I've kind of been advised that it would be more of a pain in the ass across the board, and I'd lose people in this and that if I tried to change it. So now it's just an unfunny, unironic, bad joke.
Well, I'm the other Heidi. That's my website because I lost my name going through a domain name change thing. So there's there's Heidi Moneymaker. There's other Heidi stunt people.
Yes.
Heidi Klum and I, we get mixed up a lot too. So
yeah. You're like, I'm the other Heidi.
I'm the other Heidi. Heidi, Moneymaker? No, the other. Pasco? No. The other Heidi.
Other one.
Yeah.
Literally, just call me the other one. Just call me
the other one. Not even Heidi. Just the other one.
No, just the other one. Yeah.
That hashtag's just overrun though. So
the other one.
Yeah. The other Heidi's still pretty good.
Still pretty fresh.
Sweet. So the real Zoë Bell across the board. Zoë Bell on Facebook. You're awesome. This has been. I'm not going to guess right now, but. It's been pretty cool. It's pretty cool. So,
it's been awesome. I appreciate it. It was a long chat. What are we looking at? Over 2 hours. Proud of us.
Hopefully you got something out of this too.
I
appreciate you so much, and thank you.
Oh no, thank you. And it's perfect. Now I feel like we've earned our meal.
Yes, I'm
right.
I'm stoked to get it.
Please let me know how you feel about beans on toast.
Hey, thank you so much for listening to the Hungry Stunt Girl podcast. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to contact me at heidi@thehungrystuntgirl.com, or you can check us out on Instagram or Facebook at The Hungry Stunt Girl, or on Twitter at Hungry Stunt Girl. New music has been written specifically for me by my good friend and amazing composer, Colin Bell. And hey, if you are digging this content, please like, subscribe, rate 5 stars wherever you are listening to this podcast. That is what will help keep this podcast going and growing. And as always, stay hungry.
All discussions on this podcast are for entertainment purposes only and are not meant to replace medical advice. Contrary to popular belief, Heidi is not a doctor or a nutritionist or an astronaut. Although, that would be kind of cool. Heidi, maybe you should be an astronaut.